Ever wish you had like a cheat sheet for life?
Uh-huh.
You know, for understanding people? Well, we're cracking that code today
Oh, yeah.
with this deep dive into Dale Carnegie.
Love it.
How to win friends and influence people.
Classic.
But we're going deep.
We are.
This isn't just a quick skim. This is like...
really understanding the why.
Yeah, exactly.
And how it works.
How to use it.
In the real world.
So...
let's do it.
Carnegie comes out swinging right off the bat.
Oh, yeah, he does.
He says, any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain. And most fools do. Strong words.
Yeah, but you know what? He's not totally wrong.
Is that how we motivate people, though?
Yeah.
By just being negative all the time?
Think about it. Have you ever had someone just unload all their complaints on you? Does that make you want to help them?
Honestly, it makes me want to run for the hills.
Exactly.
What is it about negativity that's so off-putting?
It just puts you on the defense.
It feels like an attack.
Yeah, like your brain is literally under attack.
Even if someone's trying to be helpful.
Even then, it's like, come on.
Like Carnegie's story of Two-Gun Crowley.
Oh, yeah, the gangster.
Or even facing execution.
Blaming everyone else.
It's wild how strong that urge is in us.
It's human nature, I guess.
So if we know criticism doesn't really work, what's the better way?
Appreciate. Honestly and sincerely. That's what Carnegie says.
Just appreciate.
Appreciate. It's more powerful than you think.
I mean, everyone likes a good compliment.
Exactly. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel seen.
Like that story Carnegie tells. The woman who liked a guy's compliment so much she gave him her car.
Okay, maybe that's a little extreme, but it just shows you how much a little appreciation can mean to someone.
Makes you think, what if we all just tried appreciating each other a little more?
It would change everything, I think.
So we've got criticizing out, appreciation in, but how do we make people want to help us achieve our goals?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Carnegie says we have to make them want to do it.
He's right.
But how? How do we make someone want to do something?
That's where things get really interesting. We'll pick up on that secret in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, so last time we were getting into some serious persuasion tactics, trying to figure out how to make people actually want to cooperate. Like, what's the magic formula?
Well, Carnegie says it's all about perspective.
Perspective.
Yeah, seeing things from the other person's point of view.
Seems straightforward enough when you say it like that.
Easier said than done, though, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, how often do we really do that? Actually step into someone else's shoes?
We get caught up in our own heads.
100%.
But that's the key, see? Carnegie even calls out these, like, big shot advertising guys writing these sales letters that totally missed the mark.
Yeah.
Because they were so busy talking about themselves, their company, their product, that they completely forgot about the person on the other end.
It's so easy to get stuck in our own little bubbles.
Totally. We think what we want is what everyone wants, but that's just not how it works, right?
No, not at all. So how do we break out of that bubble then?
Carnegie says it's about being genuinely interested in others.
That's it. Just be interested.
Sounds simple. I know. But he's not saying you have to be best friends with everyone you meet. It's more about cultivating this genuine curiosity about the people you interact with.
I can see that.
Like that story he tells about the nurse who took the time to comfort that lonely patient on Thanksgiving. Just a little bit of kindness goes such a long way.
Oh, man. That story always gets me.
Just shows that we all crave that feeling of being seen and heard, you know?
And not just in our personal lives.
Yeah.
Right? This whole idea of showing genuine interest, that's got to be huge in professional settings, too.
100%. Carnegie actually used to tell this story about how he used this principle himself. He was trying to get interviews with all these famous people, and he found that the ones who were most receptive were the ones who felt like he was genuinely interested in them.
Interesting. So it's not about faking it. It's about tapping into that genuine curiosity.
Exactly. Okay, ready for another one?
Tell me.
This one might seem small, but it's huge. Remember people's names.
Oh, don't even get me started. I am so bad with names.
You and me both.
I meet someone, have a whole conversation, and 2 seconds later, poof, gone.
But why is that? Why do we feel so bad when we forget someone's name, and why does it feel so good when someone remembers ours?
I guess it's because our names are like part of our identity.
Right. It's acknowledging you as an individual.
Makes you feel special.
Carnegie even talks about Napoleon III, you know, the emperor.
Okay, yeah.
He had this whole system for remembering people's names.
The way.
Yeah, he would repeat their name throughout the conversation, associate it with something visual, anything to help him remember.
Talk about dedication. I could barely remember my grocery list.
Right. But there's something we can take away from that. The simple act of repeating someone's name, it goes such a long way.
Makes sense. What's next?
How are you at listening?
I like to think I'm a pretty good listener.
No, I mean really listening.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Carnegie talks about how he used to be a terrible listener, which is funny because the guy wrote the book on winning friends and influencing people.
Right. How do you do that if you're a bad listener?
He tells this story about how he once monopolized a whole conversation, barely let the other person get a word in edgewise, and afterwards they thought he was a brilliant conversationalist.
You're kidding.
Nope. Which just goes to show you, sometimes people just want someone to listen to them ramble on.
I can relate to that.
But being a good listener, a truly good listener, it's about more than just, not interrupting.
It's about being present.
Right. Asking thoughtful questions. Offering encouragement.
Showing that you're actually interested in what the other person has to say.
Exactly.
Which kind of ties into another point Carnegie makes about talking in terms of the other person's interests.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Like that story he tells about the bread salesman who finally wins over a tough client by talking about his dogs.
See, we all have those things, those passions, those interests that light us up. And if you can find a way to connect with someone on that level...
You've got him.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what else we got?
This next one's big. Make the other person feel important and do it sincerely.
The sincerely part is key.
Oh, absolutely. You can't fake sincerity. People can spot that a mile away.
For sure.
Carnegie actually tells a story about this, young office worker who managed to befriend all these important people just by asking for their advice, making them feel like their opinions mattered.
Interesting.
It's like that old saying, everyone is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
So be kind.
Exactly.
We've been talking a lot about how to build relationships, put a positive spin on things. But what about when things get a little rough?
Conflict. It's part of life, right?
It is. And it's not always a bad thing.
Definitely not. But it's how we handle it that makes all the difference. And Carnegie had a lot to say about that.
He did. Starting with, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it.
Words to live by.
Easier said than done, though, am I right?
It is tough. We all want to be right.
Don't we, though? You know what? Sometimes winning the argument, it's not really winning.
It can cost you the relationship.
Exactly. Like, what are you really proving?
Carnegie talks about this salesman, Patrick J. O'Hare, who realized that arguing with his clients was actually hurting his sales.
No way.
Yep. So he made a conscious effort to agree with them even when they were wrong.
Even when they were wrong. That's wild.
It sounds crazy, but it worked. He built trust by not making them feel small or stupid. And in the end, he closed more deals.
There's a real lesson in there. Okay, so let's say we're trying to avoid an all-out argument. What's the best way to navigate those tricky conversations?
Respect. It all comes back to respect, doesn't it? Respect for the other person's opinions, even if you don't agree with them.
Carnegie actually says, never say, you're wrong.
It's like the kiss of death in a conversation. Instantly puts people on the defensive.
It's true. It's like you're attacking their intelligence.
Yeah.
And nobody responds well to that.
He tells this great story about a man who managed to change a tax inspector's mind, not by arguing with him, but by appealing to his expertise, making him feel heard and respected.
So much better than just yelling at them.
Exactly. Nobody wants to feel attacked or belittled. Okay, now, let's flip the script for a second. What happens when we're the ones who messed up?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Carnegie's advice might surprise you. He says, if you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically.
It goes against every instinct in my body, but I get it.
It's not easy, that's for sure.
Our natural instinct is to get defensive, make excuses.
Totally.
But there's something really powerful about owning your mistakes.
Carnegie tells this funny story about getting in trouble because his dog wasn't on a leash. And instead of trying to argue his way out of it, he just admitted he was wrong. And it totally disarmed the situation.
It's like you take the power away when you own it. Okay, what else we got?
Let's talk about giving feedback. Carnegie says it's important to talk about your own mistakes before criticizing others.
That's that whole lead by example thing, right?
Exactly. It shows that you're not perfect, that you've been there too. And Carnegie, being Carnegie, tells this hilarious story about criticizing his young niece.
Who just happened to be Josephine Carnegie.
Of course. And he realized that by sharing his own experiences, by showing that he understood where she was coming from, it made the conversation so much more constructive.
It's about creating a safe space for growth.
Right. Yes. And on that note of creating a positive environment, Carnegie reminds us that No one likes to take orders.
No one likes to be bossed around.
Right. So instead of giving commands, try asking questions instead.
It's about giving people autonomy.
Exactly. It shows that you value their input, their ideas.
And speaking of valuing people, let's not forget about saving face,
Oh, that's a big one. We all have egos.
even if we don't want to admit it.
Exactly. So when you need to correct someone or offer criticism, do it in a way that allows them to maintain their dignity.
Like that story Carnegie tells about Charles Steinmetz, this brilliant but kind of difficult employee at General Electric.
Oh, yeah. They ended up having to remove him from a leadership position, but they did it in a way that allowed him to save face. They created a whole new position just for him.
Well, it's about finding a solution that works for everyone. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our deep dive here, and I'm curious, what are some of the key takeaways you hope our listeners walk away with?
Well, for me, it all boils down to this. Treat people with kindness, respect, and genuine interest. Recognize their value, celebrate their successes, and even when things get tough, approach the situation with empathy and understanding.
It's about building each other up, not tearing each other down. And you know what? The world could use a whole lot more of that. So, to our listeners, I encourage you to pick just one of these principles, just one, and try incorporating it into your life this week. See what happens. You might be surprised by the positive ripple effects it creates.